Hi, I'm Alison Massey, registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist. Before we dive into healthy cooking and putting together some quick and easy meals, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I selected the things that I did from the Dollar Tree and how you can also look at food labels to make smart choices and figure out how certain items may fit into a healthy eating plan. One of the things you'll notice when you look at my items here is that there's a lot of items that are canned. I work with a lot of people that need to be on low sodium eating plans, so I understand the concern when it comes to canned items. But just because something comes in a can, it doesn't mean that it can't be included in a low sodium eating plan. So let's talk a little bit about a few tips on what to look for and also how you might include a little bit of a higher sodium item into a low sodium day of eating. So first things first, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, especially when you're shopping on a budget, sometimes the canned items are the cheapest. And that doesn't mean that they can't be included. So one of the things that I found, and the Dollar Tree actually had a fairly good assortment of canned vegetables and canned beans. And those are great pantry staples. And I'm gonna use these items to put together a quick soup and also to show you how to make a really delicious seasonal chili. But some of these items have some salt. So what can we do? Well, first things first, anytime that you're looking at a food label and you're looking at the milligrams of sodium, it's important to note that you want to look at how much sodium is in the item per serving. So I have my lovely diced tomatoes here. A serving size is about half a cup, and it's telling me that it's about 130 milligrams per serving. So this likely would be included in a recipe with other types of items. Likely when it comes to diced tomatoes, I'm probably not going to rinse these. However, other types of canned items, like these beets here, which are actually higher in sodium. So when I look at the beets, it says half a cup is 250 milligrams of sodium. The tomatoes I probably am not going to rinse and drain because I might use these in a chili. But other types of canned vegetables, when you rinse and drain them, this was not a low sodium option. If they had that in the store, I would have purchased it. But again, I went to the Dollar Tree, so I didn't have a lot of choices. I'm gonna rinse these in a colander. That cuts the salt by about 40%. So essentially all of the vegetables, the canned vegetables that I'll use in my soup recipe, those are gonna be rinsed and drained prior to adding them. And a 40% sodium reduction is pretty good. And that definitely can fit in a lower sodium eating plan as long as you're mindful at other meals. So per serving, a low sodium item would be considered something that's under 140 milligrams per serving. So technically my diced tomatoes are low sodium per serving, and I'm not gonna drain those. Other items like my beans and my vegetables have various amounts of sodium per serving. Those are all going to be rinsed and drained, and there's going to be a sodium reduction of about 40% per serving. So that's what I wanted to say about salt when it comes to canned vegetables, beans, things of that nature. Something else that I always like to point out in my sessions has to do with different types of broth. So this happens to be a chicken broth, okay? Again, this isn't labeled as low sodium, and it has actually quite a bit of sodium per cup. So what can we do here? So this container has about 4 cups of broth, and you'll see that even though this is high sodium, I'm not going to use all of this product in my soup. So I'm going to reduce the sodium by balancing out some flavor by adding a lot of water. And that can help, especially if there's limited options. Now, if you can, you might want to compare in a grocery store that has maybe low sodium, low fat, and a regular standard broth option. You might want to compare all of those and see what the lowest sodium choice is. Sometimes I've found, and I always tell my clients this, that some of the fat-free broth products actually have less salt than the lower sodium option. So do your due diligence and do read the food labels. So that's what I wanted to say about salt and why you see a few canned items here, and hopefully you have some more ideas about what you can do. So tip number 1 is make sure you read your labels. Remember that 140 milligrams or less per serving is low sodium. Tip number 2 is rinse and drain all canned items that you can. It cuts the salt by about 40%.